Hello and welcome to the Satluj Podcast. Now, much has been said and speculated about partition, how Muslims achieved Pakistan, Hindus the majoritarian control of India, the British who even washed their hands of the whole thing, and everyone walked away winners. Well, except for the Sikh people, who basically lost everything. So why was this? Was it betrayal? Was it negotiating incompetence by the leadership? Or was it something else? Why did the Sikh people lose out so spectacularly in 1947, when less than a century earlier, their own empire spanned across vast swathes of southern Asia? Well, to reveal what happened in the 7 years leading up to partition, and why Sikhs lost out so spectacularly, I'm joined today by a regular guest, Dr. Gurinder Singh Grewal. Dr. Grewal, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Good morning, Angus. Thank you very much for having me. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So, I think this is a very important subject, very dear and near to me. So, we're going to talk cartographic dilemma, the Sikh leadership search for political settlement before partition, 1940 to 47. So, we have talked previously that the decision for partition, maps were drawn and everything was done. Ambedkar was the architect of the division, the maps and all the studies. And he did in 1940. 1945, the map, one of the map which Ambedkar used was finally the basis for the final map, or the map was sent to Mr. Churchill by the Lord Wavell, the general, and it was approved and sent back as a top secret. But the Sikh leaders were still, I think, not able to grasp what was going on and how soon this was coming and how it was going to end. So I think we're going to discuss that role played by each one of them. This is a very lengthy subject. I think we are going to be able to discuss only in the summary form, but I think this summary will capture their role, and I think people who want to learn more, they have to do the original reading, and if they want, we can send them references. Okay. So let's go to the next one. So the partition of power leaves a key actor unsecured. So there was the Indian National Congress working on behalf of Hindu majority. There is no doubt that they were working for Hindu majority, not for everybody. Okay. Then there was a Muslim League led by Mr. Jinnah, who was an attorney and well understood the consequences of staying with the majority, and they will never be scared. Okay. Then there was Sikh party represented by Shiromani Akali Dal, the main party, but there were other small groups also. And they basically were looking to secure their position with the help of British. They did not come up with a strategic plan or argument which will work for them. And then finally, Radical Left Line, where the partition took place for Punjab, was almost the same Ambedkar has designed. So Sikhs failed how to protect a historically powerful, deeply rooted minority in a nation that was about to be violently divided. I think they did not see what was coming and how fast it was coming. I think they were ill prepared. The reason I think it's important to discuss now, I think India is going to be divided again. I think it's coming. Current system is going to collapse. And I feel the Sikhs are again in similar situation. They are not preparing themselves as we have the capacity and capability to do that. So I think this discussion hopefully will stimulate some mind in that direction. That's the purpose of my whole discussion. Okay, next. The root dilemma, historical weight versus demographic reality. So Sikh rooted in the land, undivided Punjab was a sacred ground, the land of the Guru's martyrdom and immense historical Sikh influence. Okay. So that's the Sikhs thought this is our land, this is our holy place, and this is where we lived for centuries. However, in demographic study, Sikh population did not form a majority in any single district in British Punjab, making compact Sikh majority state geographically impossible to draw. So even Maharaja Ranjit Singh's rule, Sikhs were a minority community, but very fine ruler and good example. But the British India, British Punjab, the division they excuse me, the division happened based on demographic um, uh, population, and we were not majority in any place. Okay, next. There were many Sikh leaders at that time, but I think the four main one is the one we're going to talk about, who I think people know. But most of the younger people, my generation, or below me, they only know about Master Tara Singh, but he was not the only leader we had. There was a very popular leader of his time. He was known Baba Khadak Singh. He came from a very wealthy family. He was idealist, and he also started National Akali Dal. And his role, I think, was mostly he was against the division, and he was pro-Congress, aligned mostly with Congress. Master Tara Singh, we can call agitator. He was a very effective mobilizing the masses, but did not come up with a strategy to use that power he had. Lacked something to convert that power into meaningful results. Gyani Kartar Singh, he relied on constitutional protections and somewhat very close to Master Tara Singh, Sardar Baldev Singh. He was an aristocrat, big landlord. He was a minister in Unionist ministry before partition, and then when India became a country of majoritarian Hindus, he was a defense minister. So as long as his position was secure, he felt that this was a good solution. So the leadership possessed immense courage but lacked a unified strategy, resulting in four distinct and ultimately conflicting projects to secure their political future. So the four had their own solution. None of them had a solution which they could agree on. Next. Next slide. Competing vision of the map. People called him betrayal. He was anti-partition. He was anti-Pakistan. He opposed the division, entirely drawing on moral authority from the Gurdwara reform movement, seeks safeguards within a united India. Flaw. The position lost all practical force of movement. Congress and Muslim League accepted the premises. So the two big political powers accepted the partition, so event or not effective. Then we have a Master Tara Singh. He wanted united India. Initially, he opposed Pakistan. Then he came up with the Azad Punjab scheme, where he wanted Punjab to be divided into Muslim majority and non-Muslim majority states. So they govern separately, but he did not get much support even from Sikh leaders like Baba Khadak Singh. Then when that became unpopular, he asked for a Sikh state, demanded separate state. The Satluj Committee, once Pakistan seemed inevitable, it was too late, too little, and did not get any benefit of his approach. Next. Mechanism of power, constitution versus cooperation. Gyani Kartar Singh, the constitutionalist, he focused on practical territorial safeguards, precise boundaries, and constitutional planning. Flaw. Acknowledge that demography doomed any purely constitutional plan without a massive popular transfer. A Sikh state was easy to resist. So his approach didn't work. Then we had Sardar Baldev Singh. He was an aristocrat, big landlord. As a member of the interim government, he believed participation in the future Indian Union was the safest bet. Participation in the future Indian Union. He felt joining the Indian side, the Congress with the Hindu majority, was best for him or for the Sikhs. So then we will go to that why in the last moment they all seem to drift to that solution. Okay. His flaws: secured seat at the table, but provided no decisive veto power over all India decisions. So yes, he was on the table, he had a seat, he was defense minister, but he really had no say in the final decision because Sikhs did not have a veto power. Okay, next. So the comparing four paths to a political settlement. We have a leaders, their strategy, stance on partition, key proposal, and critical vulnerability. Okay. Baba Khark Singh, he favored United India. He strictly opposed partition. He felt safe in whole India, rendered obsolete by events. When Congress and Muslim League agreed, so his position became irrelevant. Then we had a Master Tara Singh. He shifted his decisions based on the circumstances. He was basically reactive, finally accepted. He proposes Azad Punjab, Sikh state, but he lacked backing from major powers. So, his Gyani Kartar Singh, they were both relying on British to do the justice for them. So they kept saying, you take care of us. Instead of coming up with their own solution, their own study demand or something like what Muslim League did, they were not able to do that. Gyani Kartar Singh, strategy, boundaries, pragmatic management, constitutional guarantees. So he did not succeed in anything either. Sardar Baldev Singh, he was comfortable being a defense minister, being in the powerful position, but he really lacked any decisive veto power. So none of them come up with a solution that finally would give Sikhs a guarantee on either side. And circumstances changed so fast that they were surprised and ill prepared. Okay. Next. The cabinet mission exposes the vulnerability of minorities in May 1946. May 1946 election is when Muslim League gained majority in Punjab. So total decision strictly dictated by majority vote. There were 216 members in India, that time parliament or whatever they call Hindus, 78 Muslims, and only 4 Sikhs. If this event deepened leadership division, Master Tara Singh viewed the proposal as outright betrayal, while Baldev Singh chose to remain in the government process. So this is a very weak position they had. 4 members didn't get anything, and they were not able to make a timely decision. At one time, British was proposing them to join Pakistan because they will be larger in number there, but their position also changed. We'll talk what happened. And there was one proposal one time that they could have 6 states in the middle, where British will have their own soldiers left for so long and guarantees and all that. They did not accept that either. So they kept hoping the British will, because British took over 6 states in 1849, that they will do justice to them. They didn't realize the British were in a hurry to leave, and they misunderstood that. Next. So a fracture base, weakness, the negotiating position. So Sikhs, we have a Shiromani Akali Dal in the middle, but Sikhs also, excuse me, are divided into many. There were some of them were communists, some of them caste-based, they were Mazhabi Sikhs, they have their own group, and there's some of them were supporting Congress, like Baba Khat Singh, and there was moderate constitutionalist like Yani Kartar Singh, some were aristocrat like Baldev Singh. So Akali policy alienated these various sub-factions by failing to present a singular, unified demographic front. Sikh leadership severely undermined their collective bargaining power on the national stage. Like Hindu majority had a Congress working for them, and the Muslim League working for the Muslims, and this Sikh group did not come up with a cohesive approach. So then, all of a sudden, these things were going on for a couple of fast things can change. So then what? Do you have the next one?
Yeah, sorry, we lost the connection there, Gurinder. Right, okay.
Okay. In March 1947, a very tragic event happened or took place. It's known as a Rawalpindi massacre. Okay. Next slide. A group of Muslim League leaders from the local area collected the Muslims, and he was not endorsed by Jinnah. He was more of a academic person and working for peaceful solutions. I don't think we can blame him that. And the local Muslim League leader blamed, there was a tribal people who did the violence. So what happened? They orchestrated outbreak of violence, political tripartism, role of Muslim League, Sikh Congress leader. There was administration vacuum because British was preparing to leave, and even though there was British administrative presence, they did not react like they should have, or they didn't have the control. And there was a catastrophe, and there was no condemnation from Muslim League leaders, and this was a turning point. So let's go to the next one. What happened? Phase one, political collapse. The Prime Minister, I think they call Prime Minister then, Khizr Hayat Tiwana, he was the in charge minister. He resigned, and there was a power vacuum. Muslim League intensified agitators, okay? Phase two, there was a false propaganda that there was a Jummah mosque in Rawalpindi had been destroyed to urge the local to avenge that. Jummah is a Friday. They have a Friday prayers instead of Sunday. That's a popular thing compared to Sunday for Christianity. They spread rumors. Somebody spread rumors that big Jummah mosque has been destroyed, and Muslims need to get together and avenge that. Phase three, tactical assembly. Mobs were mobilized and systematically divided into assigned operational groups by local organizers. Phase four, groups are dispatched with specific instruction to attack pre-identified prosperous Sikh and Hindu localities. Okay, and this is all around the Rawalpindi area in the western part. Next. So some of those leaders, local leaders, this was sudden collapse. It was no planning, use of weapons for opportunity. They think what they kept saying, this is the opportunist criminals tribal people who attacked the people with the money, land, looted. But the facts came out, which is there was advance meeting held beforehand to coordinate the targets, provision and distribution of advanced weaponry, widespread pre-planned deployment of inflammable materials, systematic selection of prosperous non-Muslim rural villages. Almost like Operation Shanti. Official report explicitly attribute the initiation of violence to local Muslim League political agitators and deliberate rumor mongering, fundamentally classifying the events as an orchestrated campaign. So there's no doubt about that. But the sad part was the senior leader like Mr. Jinnah did not issue any condemnation, and that was a very sad part, and this convinced all these Sikh leaders that now time has come, they cannot stay with the Muslim majority. Okay. Next. Pre-March objective and the role during violence. Muslim League agitation against the Khizr ministry. Yes, they were against him because they wanted a Muslim League to have a ministry, but the British didn't agree. Then Sikh leadership exploring constitution safeguard with the United Punjab or autonomous region. They were still talking something, not realizing the decision has been done, and they did not seek the opportunity. Congress was pushing for united, strongly welded India. This is before the march. Role during violence. Local organizers implicated in mobilizing mobs and directing target attacks. Sikh leader like Baldev Singh conducted aerial inspection of a burning village. He saw from the plane there were 14 contiguous Sikh villages were burning at one time, and then he realized that Sikhs have to leave. Okay. Congress focused on rescue, recovery of abducted women, and peace appeals. Violence condemned as a jungle warfare. So, when Mountbatten came, that's in May 1947, he asked Jinnah and Gandhi to issue a joint statement against the violence. But it was too late, from March to May. So it started in 1947 March in Rawalpindi area, but it spread to other area like Eastern Punjab, where Muslims are minority. They became victims of revenge taken on them, what happened in 47. So whole Punjab became an ugly scene where people were killing each other, where they lived peacefully together. But it started with the Rawalpindi massacre. Okay, next. So there was a betrayal of peace committee. The Muslim League leaders locally, they asked Hindus and Sikhs to come for a peace meeting and the cantonment to quell rising tensions. So after the meeting, the attendees attacked. 7 out of the 11 members who came to attend the meeting were killed. So this seems pre-planned. They were invited for peace, but then either they were attacked by the people who invited or somebody else, but it did not give confidence to non-Muslim to live in the same area anymore. Aftermath. A formal complaint is made to DIG police, Mr. Scott, but investigations are allegedly obstructed and trials delayed before transfer of power. So you can see how much time was there when August 14 is a day for Pakistan, August 15, India gains independence. So there was all that was a confusion, and nothing good came out of it. Next. So there was administrative failure, there was civil authority paralysis, violence was ignored, district magistrates did not imposed Section 45. That means like a curfew, nobody gets out of the street. Police complicity, some of the local police who was a majority Muslim, they actually were helping the mobs which were attacking the Hindu and Sikh villages. Something you can compare to Operation Shanti, what happened in 1984 November in Delhi. Excuse me. British exit policy. As the transfer of power approach, colonial officials lost administrative control, allowing communal forces to operate with impunity in the void left by retreating empires. So British were very small in number. They were all in a hurry to leave. Well, the Sikhs kept believing the British will get them the justice or they'll take care of them. Okay, next. Breakdown of law and order, escalation on the ground. Mobs mobilized. Sardar Baldev Singh went for aerial survey, found 14 villages ablaze. 5,000 non-Muslim flee to temporary refugee camps. We're talking about the Rawalpindi massacre. Okay. Civil officials were non-functional. Reliance on military intervention was done, but too late. Shoot-at-sight order was given too late. So there was delayed response by the administration. Next. So how many people were killed in that? There's nobody knows exact estimated, but between 7,000 to 8,000 people were found dead. 886 killed in Rawalpindi city alone, along with 304 injured, 117 specific arson cases. The Muslim demographic majority of Rawalpindi district, which surrounded one level non-Muslim pockets, making rural defense impossible. So 80% of the population around that area was Muslim. So the people who were there, minority, could not defend themselves. Violence featured not just murder, but widespread arson, looting forces, conversion, and systematic desecration of gurdwaras. Okay. Terrible situation. And then this violence spread to the other areas where Muslims also became targets. So both sides suffered, but it started in Rawalpindi. Master Tara Singh's family came from that area. That affected him. Then I think at that point he also became convinced that they have to go with the Hindu majority because they could not live with any security with the Muslim majority. There were many other factors, and there was no option to have a Sikh state at that time. Okay. Next. Displacement and severing of escape routes. Okay. There was a village Toha Khalsa, widespread massacre, mass suicide. There were, I think, 140, 160 people, Sikhs live in that village. 140 were murdered. 90 women committed suicide by jumping in the wells to save themselves from harassment, rape, and killing. There were convoy coming from Kashmir of 350 non-Muslim detained. They were abandoned by the official escort and systematically attacked. 315 dead. You can see heavy price people who are paying. There was train coming from Wazirabad, which were fired, and 36 passengers were killed. So Rawalpindi marked the beginning of irreversible massive population exchange that would soon engulf all of Punjab. So this was a catalyst which at that point Sikhs felt they have no other option but to join Indian side. Now we can blame, they should have considered the other option. But if you look and see the circumstances, I don't think any one of them are dared to say that Pakistan will be secure for us. I think mentally they were exhausted and did not see that they have any other solution. It's easier to say now, but under those circumstances, I think you can understand what happened. So Mountbatten came, he asked Jinnah and Gandhi to issue a joint statement for peace. it was too little too late. The reality of application, League silence, Central Muslim League leadership failed to issue specific, full-hearted condemnation of Rawalpindi massacre of Multan. There was another area also. So this is where I think senior leader like Jinnah, I don't think there's any evidence that he was behind it, but he did not condemn it in a timely fashion, which I think give Sikhs and the Hindus in that area that they cannot be safe living in that area. So I think his failure to issue condemnation was, I think, somewhat factor in the perception or the decision made by Sikhs and Hindus in that area. Kohar train outrage and attack killing 8 refugees goes uncondemned by the League serving as implied approval. That's another event. Gandhi publicly did not say anything until he has joint statement, so he also failed. Next. Catalyst for partition, a paradigm shift. Pre-March 1947, there was constitution debate, safeguards, autonomous Sikh region within a federal India. A lot of options were being discussed. Rawalpindi massacre, I think, changed all that. So their focus became joining the Congress, majority Hindu state. They felt that will be safe for them. So now later on we can see that decision also turned out not to be right, but that's how this happened. Okay, next. Evidence of why they recalculate, evidence of devastation. When Baldev Singh went for aerial survey, he found those villages burning. Master Tara Singh witnessed the destruction of prosperous Sikh villages and flight of refugees. He belonged to that area. So the step 2, co-realization, the leadership concluded that in a Muslim majority Pakistan, they would become a highly vulnerable minority. Assurance of protection from officials or the Muslim League are deemed utterly untrustworthy. So this is the decision they made based on the circumstances. Just like Mr. Jinnah felt that the Muslims could never be safe with the majority Hindus. Now the Sikhs made that decision. They could never be safe with the majority Muslim population. So this is a decision they made. You and me were not there, so we can say anything we want. But the time I think is important to understand why they made that decision. Abandonment of the United Punjab became impractical. Sikh leadership permanently shifted to demand the of partition of Punjab and accession of principal Sikh area to India. So they basically give up the demand for separate Sikh state. And I think from March to August, you can see how much they could have accomplished, because this massacre, I think, had a great effect on their decision, right or wrong, people can conclude. So this was orchestrated violence, administrative collapse, and point of no return, what the decision they made. So this is, I think, the next. So they are they have reliance on a departing empire. Okay, there was a Congress on one side who got in majority of the India. Sikhs in the middle got nothing, but at the last moment joined the Congress side. Muslim League got Pakistan, and the British were leaving in a hurry. They wanted to extricate their own citizens. So misstep for the Sikhs, heavy dependence on British officials. Sikh leadership frequently petitioned the Punjab governor and the viceroy, do something for the Sikhs. They will go talk to the viceroy. They will sit half an hour, 45 minutes, but give no demand, no proposal and just kept saying, please watch for us. They missed the opportunity, failed to negotiate directly, aggressively, and consistently with the two main all India power brokers. Neither they could put their point across British what they really wanted or how they wanted, nor they could negotiate with Congress and Muslim League. In the end, I think as a weak party, losing confidence in Muslim League, end up joining the Congress and India. So this was a very sad event which changed the scenario and the calculation. Next. Excuse me. So architecture of a failed settlement, Sikh political settlement. Demographically, Sikhs were not a majority in any district. Then they didn't have a unified approach, and then they became marginalized. And then, reliance on British was not working because British was in a hurry to leave. They left. It was supposed to take place in 1948. I forgot the date, but they left on 15th of August, transfer the power. So, next. People left without a border. Ultimate tragedy was not a lack of courage, but a mathematically weak position compounded by divided leadership. Okay. In the three-side contest for India's future, Sikh became fourth party. Okay. Who were the four party? Congress obtained India, Muslim League achieved Pakistan, and the British secured a rapid exit. And despite immense sacrifice and unbreakable historical claim to the land, the Sikh political future remained unscared. This is the end result. Those three parties got what they needed, but the Sikhs joined Congress when they had no other option left, and all the verbal securities given became meaningless. And when they reminded them, and they said, "Oh, Sardarji's situation has changed." So this is I think, my conclusion. Do you have any question before I say something more?
No, please do. Please do summarise, Dr. Grewal.
You probably know more. I have only read it. In England, UK, they have a ruling party which chooses the prime minister, and the opposition party also has what they call shadow government. So for every minister in the government, opposition party has a shadow minister who follows the same area of expertise as the minister does. So if there's a shift of power, then the other party is ready to take over and run the country. So is that is my understanding. That's true?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think where we are now, India, my calculation is, my assessment is, I could be wrong. India is a failing and it's going to collapse. I don't know if you have seen the videos for the last 2 days, what's happening in Delhi, the cockroach party, the young people, how they are being beaten up by police, tear gas, and they cannot walk to give their grievances paper to the parliament, which is their own country. They cannot walk there without being beaten, harassed, and whole world has seen that. Yes, this is, I think, the beginning. It's not going to stop there, I think, because economy is collapsing, and this majoritarian government is very cruel to the minorities, Dalits, Muslims, Sikhs. I think there is no way this can survive as a one country very long. I think what we need, the Sikhs need, like what British has, a shadow government. We need people who will learn, follow this, and ready to take over rather than being surprised again. I think this is the time. This is the time for the Sikhs to stop just only being the agitator like Master Tara Singh. We need to have people trained, educated, and understand the world politics, who can sit on the table and participate and take over the Sikh state when the time comes. I think that's one of the purpose for my discussion into bringing the weaknesses we have, instead of blaming the people who had the weaknesses, why we continue the same way. I think we need to improve and learn from the weakness, and we learn from the big powers. I think this is shadow government concept is a very good one. So the country has people running the country who understand the business of government. So I think this is a very important lesson to learn.
Yes, I agree, Dr. Grohl. And actually, it's very interesting. I'm going to go back to this slide here. I think this actually is the most illustrative slide of the whole discussion, because it highlights, I think, the important dynamics of this period. And now when we fast forward to today, there are huge lessons to learn about how we go from here based on, essentially, the dynamics illustrated in this slide. During those years leading up to 1947, it was very clear the British were going to pull out. So the British actually didn't care. They, all they wanted was they just needed a clean exit. And frankly, we'll just leave India to take care of itself, but we just need to get out. And it appears clearly that there are those within Congress, Muslim League, Sikhs, didn't realise that fact. But of course, with the benefit of retrospective time, of course it was obvious. But anyway. But what is interesting, and this is the lesson to learn, and I think the best metaphor that comes to mind is if you have a body of water at the top of a mountain and let it down the mountain, it will follow the path of least resistance. Water always finds the path of least resistance. Now, that metaphor applies to this situation because we have a situation, politically, socially speaking, in India in those years leading up to 47. You've got two very powerful forces, Congress, the Muslim League. And then in the middle, you've got this tiny minority of Sikhs. In reality, you've got two heavyweights who are going to dictate the agenda. In reality, there was absolutely nothing the Sikhs could do in their situation, particularly demographically, as you pointed out. They were so dispersed. But ultimately, that path of least resistance was firstly the British pulling out, leaving a vacuum, which meant those with the biggest sticks, politically speaking, could then dictate what the outcome would be. So you've got Muslims, the Congress Party, Indian Hindu majority, basically dictating those terms. And there was nothing that either the British or the Sikhs could do about that. So with that sort of concept in mind, and it's obvious, I mean, of course, in that vacuum, that chaos that was created, then of course those who wield the biggest sticks, metaphorically speaking, are going to be able to design what happens next. In other words, what we say goes. And that is essentially what happened. Now, what happened on the ground was something different. In other words, and again, another lesson to be learned from the collapse of the Soviet Union is that events almost took a life of their own. It gathered momentum. But as soon as people realised what was happening, the wall was falling, the people took over. It didn't matter what the politicians said. They lost control. The people then took control. And events essentially fulfilled that path of least resistance. That in the USSR, the wall fell down, Soviet Union collapsed, that was it. In this situation, the Rawalpindi massacre was that first catalytic event, as you rightly say, where clearly the politicians, the heavyweights, these two big heavyweights had said, right, partition's happening. Whatever happens, it's happening. Doesn't matter what the Sikhs say. The Sikhs were just used as useful pawns in that discussions. But ultimately, those two heavyweights said, we're partitioning. And as soon as the people realised that that was the direction of travel, events took over. In other words, the people on the ground said, right, we need to move. And of course, partition, the massacres of partition happened as the demographics moved. So I'm saying all that to set the scene now. Fast forward to today. If we look at India as potentially about to break up sometime in the foreseeable future, we have a similar situation. We've got heavyweights in place. Of course, we've got the Hindu majoritarian demographic, who again are the big heavyweights. Now, we do have minorities, but we have a weird situation where actually there are a lot of minorities, but the Muslims still form the largest majority, but proportionally a lot less than they did in 1947. But what I'm saying is that really now is the time, as you rightly say, the Sikh community needs to look back on the 1940s and say, look, we were a bit player. We were nothing. Politically speaking, we had no power. Demographically, politically, socially, we had no stake in that game. Nobody would listen to us because our stick was too small. Now, you have rightly said, what can we do today in the 21st century to position the Sikh community where they actually become a force that wields a bigger stick? I don't know what that answer is. Now, you propose one answer, which is we need to set up a shadow government, something that can slot into place. And back to my metaphor, events will take the path of least resistance. There is nobody controlling this situation as it unfolds. As India breaks up, it will be chaos, as it was in the 1940s. There will be no controlling benign power, like the British Empire even, who's going to say, right, you can have that bit, you can have that bit. Events will follow the path of least resistance, and those with the biggest sticks or the solutions already pre-packaged, they will win, because that is the path of least resistance. If there is something that can be put into that vacuum of chaos, that will win. So I think that essentially is the core of what I'm trying to say now, is that the Sikh people need to work out what is that pre-packaged solution that can be then pushed onto that table of chaos and say, right, here is an immediate solution. Because in chaos, people will always grab solutions. So, Dr. Grail, with that in mind, what do you think? And it's obviously very hard to try and work out what is that solution. But you've already mentioned one, a shadow government. But what do you think the Sikh people can do? I mean, one solution, which I think is impossible, is demographics, is to move Sikhs, every Sikh in India, move to Punjab. And then immediately you've got a pre-packaged state on breakup that can say, we are Khalistan. Now, in reality, that's probably practically impossible unless you can persuade, 30 odd million Sikhs to move to Punjab immediately. But the question back to you, Dr. Grail, is what do you think, if indeed you can think of any, what solutions can we pre-package to put ready so that when chaos ensues, Khalistan can step into the breach?
So let me state something. I think the government there is very smart. They have agencies where they have recruited people who are very smart, and their job is not to do anything good, but to do bad things so that the government can keep control. So every day, some minor, I'm saying minor, not necessarily I can discount that, they will cause some mischief which occupies the people of Punjab on both sides. Some condemn, some oppose, some support. So they are lost in day-to-day. They are just into day-to-day discussions. They're not overall discussion on the future and the purpose of what they're doing. Like desperation, we said, the Gurdwara, they send somebody to play mischiefs, and everybody's occupied. Somebody condemning government, somebody going to Kaltak. We propose on this platform, they need to hire Sikh soldiers, retired Sikh soldiers, to guard the Gurdwaras. Yes, there was statement by SGPC, they're going to hire 35, but I didn't see any bigger action. So I think we need a group of people outside Punjab and diaspora and inside working together to have a strong plan, not just be reactive, not like what they did before 47, be reactive. We need to be planning forward and having some action items. One of the things I noticed recently on the YouTube, even people in Haryana, they call themselves Jats. They are basically in agriculture, Jats. Punjabis call them Jats. They're basically same people. In Punjab, they become Sikhs. The others are not. During farmer strike, part of UP, Haryana, Rajasthan, they came together and they fought this government together and they defeated them. So I was listening to some podcasts on YouTube by some of them. They are saying we need Jatstan. And they are moving more towards, they say we have more common with the people of Punjab, and they say the Sikhs, we need to become Sikhs. I think we need to have a group of people approaching, having joint planning, discussion. I think that's one good solution can be. That can be very powerful. India, the defense relies mostly on these people. They are fighters. Okay, their sons are the one who are guarding the borders. So, but the people are lost in some trivial issues which are not going to change the future. I think we need visionaries. We need this kind of discussion. We stop parading on the streets long enough. Yeah, once in a while we need a mass demonstration to accomplish something. Even in US, okay, Sikhs are running around having statements from the congressman supporting the Sikhs. But that doesn't change anything. I think the same situation like they rely on the British to do the justice. No American congressman is going to get us a Khalistan. Why would they do that? They want to know what is in there for us. Why should they support the Sikhs? We need some kind of a very strong group of people, study presentations inside Punjab, outside Punjab, to move forward. If we are serious, I think we need that kind of group. We can't be just talking one day, then go to sleep and forget about it. I think it is a task which is a tremendous task only for serious people, but without it, I think we will not achieve our goal. I think the time has come. We need to give up trivial misunderstandings or trivial issues. We need to focus on a big issue because they will keep us busy in some small issues. I think we do not need to be lost in small issues. We need to progress and we need to move forward for the ultimate goal. And people who are serious need to sit down and start working like a shadow government and then have a policy plan, resources. I think community has resources. Like last time I said, if we give $1 a day, we can defeat this Indian government.
And I mean, when you think back to 1947, there was a one opportunity that came along for Khalistan, and it was lost, it was missed. So the next opportunity that has potentially come along is at least 80 years later. So in other words, these opportunities will not come again in at least 2 or 3 generations. So in other words, I think the message to the Sikh community, particularly the Khalistan movement, is it needs very quickly to get this pre-packaged solution ready to put on that table the moment there is any sign of India breaking up, as and when it does, and as we believe it is inevitable. They need to be ready to move immediately to put that solution, that ready, prepared, neat, easy solution on the table so that the global community, the United Nations, whoever it is, can then say, yes, that is an easy solution. Let's put that in place. That keeps that region stable. And that, I think, is really the message that the Khalistan movement, and obviously they're on this already, but they need to be ready with that plan on a shelf, ready to insert.
Yeah, not to waste time on trivial things.
Exactly. It's the big stuff.
Thing. You have a very powerful voice. I think you can be catalyst, instrumental, and giving the message again and again. I think without that, it's going to be difficult. So let me say something just a little different subject, but I think the time is there. That's it. It occurred to me that why, so we are drifting into something else. Why Modi goes out to different Western countries, then he has very little to offer as a negotiator or something. He's not very intelligent, but he's a very politically astute in some way. So he will invite, like, come to US, howdy Modi, 50,000 some people go there. So then he's speaking to them, deliver speech, which is written by somebody else. Why is he doing that? The purpose. You have any idea why he's doing that?
It's a good question.
I think I understand. I don't know if this is true, but this is my assessment. I think he collects the Indians with the use of embassies and their staff and all that. He's sending a message to the political leaders in US, UK, wherever he goes. Oh, those Indians, they are your voters and they are controlled by me. So he's telling all those political leaders that they can be your support if you support me. So he's exploiting that message very smartly, but I don't think it's going to help him. But I think this is the only purpose. Why would he collect thousands of Indians, give them a speech when he doesn't want to speak to any Indian or any press in India? So I think he's using that as a political tool to convince the political people, where, like he goes to England, whether he's trying to convince the Labour Party, the other, look, so many Indians, they're at my, whatever I say, they will vote for, or something like that. Hidden message. I don't know if it's true, but I think that's one thing. The other thing, why is the Modi always going somewhere? Many problems. He cannot have press conference. He cannot discuss anything in the parliament properly, but he's always going somewhere. I think it may be a laughing thing. I think he's afraid that his government is going to collapse. He could be somewhere safe. I think that's why he's running around all the time, so he could be safe and he doesn't need to come to India. I think he's afraid India is collapsing. It may be, no, I'm saying jokingly, but I think India is collapsing. Economically is nowhere.
Yeah, it's clear his argument is really based on foundations of sand. I mean, as you rightly say, the economy, society is fracturing. The whole Indian infrastructure is, I think, I would argue, at breaking point. So it's going to be very, very interesting. But anyway, Dr. Grover, we must leave it there. We've been having a fascinating conversation, and indeed we will continue the conversation on a later occasion. But as always, Dr. Grover, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thank you. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Fateh.
And indeed, thank you for watching the Satluj TV podcast. We will see you next time.